Let's get it popping, no stopping till we get to the top. All right, tonight, my guest tonight is Brenda Hicks Cummings, mother, wife,
Ooh.
friend, educator. I am so excited to have you on tonight. Are you excited?
Well, you gave me all those titles. Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. It's an
Listen,
honor to be here.
you are all of those things, ma'am. All of those things. So how was your day?
Yeah. I had a good day. I did. I got a chance to do some follow up on some things I need to do, working on some projects. Got ready for you today. So that was cool. Got out in the beautiful weather. So, you can't go wrong with beautiful weather and sunshine. So,
Right, already. Okay, well, listen, let's get
yes,
to it.
ma'am.
I'm excited. The topic tonight is
Okay.
This is America Part 2. Now,
Okay.
it's Part 2 because I did Part 1 with you probably know him as Ooh Wee or Mario.
Okay.
And we talked
Okay.
about what's going on in America today, all the stuff with Trump and
Okay.
just all the issues that are going on in the news. You can't help but wake up and hear something else tragic
So part
every
one.
on the
Okay.
news. That was Part 1. So this is Part 2. So we're about to get
So
into a
what
part.
inspired and uplifted for part one?
Well, what we got out of it is that we need to stay together as a community, right? We can't do this thing called life without each other.
I
So
like
we
it.
need to stay connected and keep in touch with our brothers and sisters and make sure we're out there voting and doing everything necessary that we need to do this thing called life and make it right.
I like it. I
So yeah,
like
that
it.
was Part 1. Okay, so
Awesome.
the first thing I want to ask you, I want to talk
Yes,
about
ma'am.
how we came to know each other.
Oh, okay. You
And
gonna give your version, and then I'm gonna give my
let me give
version, and
my
then I'm gonna
version.
get it. Then I'm gonna get the truth.
Okay, so I know it was JC3 now. It's DC3 now, but I think we met when it was
Yes,
JC3.
that's
And if
correct.
I'm not mistaken, it was a Wonder Woman conference, I want to say.
That's correct. That's correct. So
Okay. And
far, so
right.
far.
And it was hosted by Pastor Tandra, who is no longer with us. Miss her, but
Our
yeah.
heart. Our
And
heart.
yeah,
Yes.
and so I don't know how we got paired together. I probably chose you. I don't remember, but we ended up sitting at the same table.
Yes. Yes. So
And
far, so good. The
right,
facts are right. The facts are right
facts,
so
right.
far.
And so we just began talking. And I don't know if it was an exercise that we had to do. I can't remember that much in depth, but I
Right.
just know that moment with you, it gave me so much life because
Oh my goodness.
I was at a point, I don't know, I can't remember exactly where I was in my life, but the
Hmm.
the information and the insight that you gave me that day has stuck with me.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
you talked about, I because of course I was talking about men and relationships and stuff like that.
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
you saying,
Universal topic. Yes.
right, and I remember you saying something to the fact of like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Right. It may not come right now. It may not look
Right.
like how you want it to look,
Right.
but
Right.
but hold on to it because it's still possible. That's what I took
Yeah.
away from that. So what
Yes.
give me your version.
Well, so far that's a 9.9. So that's true. Fact. True story.
Yeah.
It was at the Wonder Woman conference. So that was amazing.
Mhm.
I was just impressed with you as a young woman who was very, very driven, laser focused, and really interested in taking your life to the next level as a young Christian woman. What we actually did, this is the point that that you left out. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Was we actually skipped a session because we were going to breakout sessions,
Okay.
and it was after lunch, and we were supposed to go to our next session. I don't know what the topic was, but we just became so interested in what we were saying and making the connections. And I'm learning from you. And now I'm finding out today that you learned something from me. But I was inspired by your light. But that's what we actually did. We actually just skipped the next session, and no one came in and said, okay, what session are you supposed to be in? What did you sign up for? What are you guys doing in here? Looking for some dessert or what? So for me, the connection and the takeaway was, you know what, Lord, it is awesome to see young women today still fighting and still believing and still trusting in you.
Oh,
So yeah,
so
it was real.
beautiful.
Real. It's from the heart, man. Yeah.
And man, and we've been kicking it ever since, man. When I
That's true.
tell you, when you walk in the room, I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
because when we were at JC3,
Uh-huh.
I would just chuckle inside anytime you stood up or raised your hand because I
Oh,
was
during the Bible study marathon.
baby, because I was like, oh, here it come. I said, it's about to be good right here. This is about to bless
Right.
my whole
Right.
soul. Whatever you say is about to bless my whole
Right.
soul.
That was the
And it's
Bible
gonna be
study.
funny.
The Bible study marathons. Right. Well, we could talk for real. And
Yeah,
that is what I enjoyed. I enjoyed being able to speak freely from, my perspective and of course what we were learning and what we were being taught the night. So it was always a relevant topic. And so for me, I could be honest, it was a safe space to tell the truth. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it was. And I missed that.
Yeah.
I really
Yes.
yeah, I missed that.
Yes.
Some
Yes.
other friends of mine, we discuss that all the time about how not that we mind a bigger church because we're
Right.
here to bring more people to
To
Christ.
grow.
That's the goal,
Right.
right? But I just miss that
Hmm.
tightness, that family feel that we had. When
Making a connection.
yeah,
Just the connection.
yeah,
Right.
I miss the connections. But
Right.
anyway, speaking about black women and
Hmm.
stuff like that, I brought you or asked you to talk about maybe two influential women.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
you have that for me?
Influential women, like for Women's History Month, which is every day, right?
Right,
Every
right.
day. I have to start with the most influential woman. Number one, that would be my mother,
Okay.
Miss Alberta Robinson Hicks Williams.
Okay.
So, yes, that would be the first person that I would have to talk about because of her life lessons, things she taught me about growing, what she taught all of us, really. She just led with an iron fist. She was fair, but she was also loving and just funny. And she led by example. She did a lot of things without saying, okay, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And basically, it was just watch me,
Mm-hmm.
watch me.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever she needed your attention, she would let you know
Mm-hmm.
it's not going down this way. So she would. So she was very inspiring. Her life is an inspiration. This is the month. Actually, it's interesting that you selected this month.
Mm-hmm.
This is the month that we celebrate her life and her legacy with how funny she was and how loving and kind and strict and firm. She was all of that. And this month is a very special month for me. So I was really touched when you said today, April 1st, because I try to do everything that's going to bring a smile to my face and remembering her. This would be 8 years now. So this is going to be, it's always a struggle month,
Mm-hmm.
but I do a lot of laughing when I talk to my family members and my extended family who knew her, who grew with her, who knew her her philosophy. I get calls and I get text messages about what would your mother be doing, what would your mother say, what was the thing she used to say. She all these quips and things about
Mm-hmm.
life lessons and journeys. So she is totally my very first life lesson and things that she taught me.
That's
So
awesome. See, I didn't
yeah,
even know that.
yeah, this will be her 8 years. She's been gone,
Oh,
but we
wow.
celebrate her and someone will call and, give a quote or say, remember when your mother did this? One of the kids from the neighborhood that I grew up with, the last time I saw him, he said, yeah, if your mom was still here, she'd be outside, screaming at them kids. I said, no, commanding them to do what they should be doing. So,
So the apple
that,
don't fall far from the tree.
okay, well,
That's what I'm getting because everything you just described is everything I've seen in you.
she was an amazing woman. I'm from a very large family, very large family. And so and I'm number four, so I had seven siblings under me.
Oh,
So sometimes I was unpopular because she'd ask me to do things, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not even number one. I'm number four. What's up with that? But she is the reason that I actually did go to college, because at 8 or 9, she started talking about this place called college. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't even know what that is, but I guess I'm supposed to go. If I
Mhm.
figure it out,
Mhm.
what it is, I'll probably go.
Mhm.
But she planted that seed about 8 or 9. But her philosophy was family, marriage, education, but ultimately, number one, trusting and believing God and who He is and that direction for your life. So that's who she is. So,
So,
yeah, second person,
yeah.
there's several. I could just go down the list and name
Mhm.
several, but I'll give this another a personal person. And I can name some famous people that I admire who have been part of mentoring me, philosophy and guiding and strengthening, etc. But I
Mhm.
had a professor named Dr. Lillian Anthony Welch at my university that I attended in the Midwest, University of Nebraska. But
Mhm.
Dr. Lillian Anthony Welch, she had this philosophy about drugs, dealers in particular. So
Okay.
from her classroom, well, she'd say she never wanted to see American Black children being sold drugs or anything like that. And she carried a bat. She had her bat in her classroom, and you could
Say
ask her.
what?
She had a bat, and she said she carried it in her car. Now I never saw this, and I never saw her on CNN, where there was no CNN at the time.
Right.
But she carried a bat and said if she ever caught anyone giving drugs to children, that she would use that bat.
Mm.
So she was very, very interesting about that. But the other thing I learned from her as a mentor and as a young woman who had achieved her doctorate degree at a very young age, a very old
Mhm.
age. But aside from that, because we know there's formal education and then there's informal
Mhm.
education. But I worked for her and I worked for her one summer, and it was the greatest summer job because I had to live in the library. At first, I thought, but my job was to check her entire bibliography for every footnote for a book she was competing on, the American Black family. So she's doing all this research on the Black family.
Mhm.
So the most impressive thing or the most memorable thing was having to read through the congressional records to see their dialogue and to really get a bird's eye view of what they said and
Mhm.
how they thought, and freely discussing anything, you name it. But the main thing that stuck out, because she was doing research on the American Black family, specifically the American Black male,
Mhm.
and here I am going over these quotes that she's saying, and there in the congressional records, it said, what are we going to do with free Black people in America?
Wow. Wow.
Specifically, the American Black man, the
Wow.
free Black man.
Uh-huh.
What are we going to do with them? And of course, we know what happened. They came up with codes, to arrest us, or to arrest American Black men specifically, but American Black women too,
Right.
that were enslaved and now freed. But that was the most impressive job that I had. So those are the two Black women. I mean, I could think of several, and not just American Black women,
Just
other
women in
women,
general.
just in general.
Let,
Yes.
let me ask you this
Yes.
because we spoke briefly about an
Mhm.
experience you had with
Mhm.
Maya Angelou.
Yes, Maya Angelou and Alex Haley. Are you referring to that one?
Yeah, you
Or
tell
either
me a
one?
little, like, how did that even come about? How did you meet the Maya Angelou and Alex Haley?
Oh, well, it's easy when, your campus will pay thousands of dollars to have them come. But I'm going to start with Alex Haley, who authored Roots, right, at
Right.
50. And so at 50, that he had written other books, of course, the autobiography of Malcolm X, which he actually of course, he started getting credit for, but he was actually the writer and had to meet with Malcolm X to write that book, Alex Haley. But the big thing that he's most remembered for, of course, is Roots.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to Dr. Lillian Anthony Welch, when Roots came out, and of course, I went to college in the 70s. So when Roots came out, she was talking about her
Mhm.
friend Alex. Her friend Alex, she's so proud of her friend Alex, and she's going to see if she can get him to come to the campus. At that time, I was interning at a radio station.
Mhm.
And so she asked me if, and I was in her class too. She asked me if I would like to be part of the press conference that
Mhm.
her friend Alex Haley is coming. And I said, "What? Okay."
So you knew who Alex Haley was.
Well, of course I knew who he was. Of course I knew who he was. Stop playing. So anyway, she invited me to go to the press conference. I was the only student at the press conference, so that was an awesome experience. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, that was an awesome experience. But anyway, it was because of Dr. Lillian Anthony Watch that I got a chance to go to the press conference. Only student there. So we go, and no entourage or anything. We pick up, Alex Haley. Meanwhile, prior to that, the radio station that I was interning with gave me about 8 books and said, "Can you get him to sign it?" So
Mhm.
now everybody wants an autographed copy,
Of
signed up.
course. Wouldn't you?
Of course. So I just brought, of course, my tape recorder. Y'all don't know nothing about that, but it's in hand, and you got to go and you got to
For
press it.
millennials and those under 30, a tape
Right.
recorder.
So I took my tape recorder. The thing that really impressed me was, of course, he went there. He gets off the plane like a normal person. There's no entourage or anything. He's world famous, at this point. But
Mhm.
there's Dr. Lillian Anthony Wells. He calls her Leo. They greet each other. But off to the side were these two men just seated and just kind of waiting too. They weren't part of the press conference or the press that was taking him back to the room so that we could interview him and I could get my tape and take it back to the radio station.
Mhm. Right, right.
So I asked a couple of questions. But the thing that impressed me about him as a person was these two gentlemen. He saw them seated there. And he was in the Navy.
Mhm.
That was part of his journey. He was in the
Mhm.
Navy,
Mhm.
and that's where he was writing letters and writing love letters for his shipmates.
Mhm.
That's what they had
Mhm.
him doing, and he's writing stories and getting rejected and so on and so forth, and going on that path. So these two gentlemen, they stand, and they're in their 50s, just like him, and they walk over to him, and he hasn't seen them in 30 years, maybe longer. And I tell you, he stopped and he called them by name. And they just stood around and, chatted for a minute. And they said, "We're just so proud of you, blah, 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 blah." And he asked Lil, well, he called her Lil, I called her Dr. Lillian
Right.
Anthony Wells.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And could they come to the press conference? And she said, sure. So we invited them and had not seen them, but he used to write their love letters and they confirmed it. Yeah,
Oh,
they
wow.
confirmed it. So
Okay, so how did the meeting with Maya Angelou come about?
Maya Angelou was I don't want to say just, I don't want to just say just, but
Mhm.
she was part of our women's history program. So we
Okay.
were able to get her. And I was just another face in the crowd, just another student
Mhm.
in the crowd that was able to meet with her, be a part of the reception. And I tell you,
And how old were you at this time?
oh, at that time, let's stop playing. Early 20s. Yeah, early 20s. I was early 20s. Yeah,
That
early 20s. So
is astonishing to
21,
me.
21, maybe 22, but yeah, definitely early 20s. And she is the only person that I actually stopped and waited in line when she had a moment because I had a scrapbook at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And everybody walking up, they've written poetry or they want to write something or they aspire to write. And of course, I was one of those people as well. So she wrote, and I have it right now today, and it just says, "Write on Brenda," Write.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
And
that
that's the only person in my life that I've actually, that's kind of like a autograph. I don't believe in them.
right.
But as far as, waiting, can I get your autograph?
Mhm. Right.
Um,
Well, child,
but
I do,
but
honey.
for her, I stopped and it was amazing, just amazing. What you saw was real, just very raw, very open, talking about her life's journey and how everything that she had gone through in her life brought her to the point of where
Mhm,
she was today.
mhm.
And that is something that I say right now today, that we are all the sum total of our life experiences.
I
And
agree.
I understand clearly what that means now.
I
I
totally
really
agree.
understand what that means now. So, yeah.
So
So
let's
pretty
get
cool.
into
Mm-hmm.
the question I want to discuss is the
Mm-hmm.
reversal of Roe v. Wade. Now we talked about this briefly, and I
We
don't
kind
know.
of briefly talked about it, and at that time, I didn't get a chance to really tell you that I don't really have an opinion on it. So I'll say this
Okay,
about that, and I'll be done.
okay.
The initial ruling did happen, of course, in '73 when I was finishing school, on my way to college, actually, that semester. So it was a lot of controversy. It was the height of the women's rights, right? The
Mhm,
women's rights movement, the American
mhm,
Black people movement, every movement, it was at the peak of it.
mhm,
So, of course, the ruling was, I believe it was 7-3, and depending on the climate of the country, and of course, she was an unmarried woman or single
mhm,
woman at the time who was
mhm,
pregnant, and she challenged the Constitution to support or protect her under the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law.
mhm,
And she actually won. Regarding she won the right to choose
mhm.
to
Right.
terminate a pregnancy if she wanted, and then any other woman. The reversal of it, I think the ruling was 6-3. I think six to three, and I believe that was based on the word constitution. I mean, not the word constitution. The word abortion is nowhere in the Constitution. It was a 98-page document or an opinion submitted by the most controversy justice that sits, on the Supreme Court today. But whether or not a woman should have the right to make decisions on
About
what
her body.
happens to her, about her body,
Mhm,
of course, I believe that is something that a woman should have. Whatever a woman, if a woman finds herself in a position having to make that decision,
mhm.
there are many circumstances that
Many.
surround that, a gazillion circumstances. It's not
Exactly.
about it's not about being anti-life or not in favor of a woman, or destroying a baby. But I know that part of the discussion is at what point is their life, right? So you can go
Right.
down 1,800 rabbit holes on opinions, but there are a gazillion circumstances that surround.
Yeah. And it was
But
a
the point or the fact or the right to choose what happens to you, that's a personal and a private choice. And of course, that's a moral decision between that woman and God.
mhm,
But there are circumstances that happen that a woman can find herself looking. It could be medical.
mhm.
It could be a medical issue. It could be a married boyfriend. These things happen. I'm just saying that enough has been said about it in the Supreme Court. When you go back and do your history, since this is a series on America, you could go forever looking at the history, right, of
Mhm.
America. But the Supreme Court is notorious for, and very famous for, reversing rulings, and nothing surprises me. I have lived long enough in my beautiful America to see
It
that
was just
things can
appalling.
change, things can go forward, they can go
Yeah.
backwards, they can be renamed, they can be called something else. Once upon a time in beautiful America, there was a Supreme Court that ruled that separate but equal,
Mhm.
separate but equal.
It was just this.
Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896. Fact check me on that.
Mhm.
Plessy versus Ferguson. Fact check me on that. 1896. Well, Plessy was a gentleman who got on a railroad who got on the train and refused to sit in, quote unquote, the black section.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the Supreme Court, took his case all the way to the Supreme Court. That Supreme Court at that time, all white men, all white
Mm-hmm.
males in America,
Mm-hmm.
they ruled and delicately ruled that it is constitutional for the races to be separated at that point. And because of that ruling, Plessy versus Ferguson,
Mm-hmm.
it became commonplace. Said, well, okay, well, he wanted to ride on the train. We've got to have a law that will state. So that's how separate but equal came about in 1896. Until that point, um, blacks and whites mixed openly. You know, there's evidence that that did happen
Mm-hmm.
until it came to a point where public service or being out in public. So that's how Plessy decided to take that to the Supreme Court, or to take that and question, challenge the Constitution. So when he did that, the Supreme Court then dictated that this day forward, we will have separate but equal.
Mm-hmm.
So, beautiful America and our lawmakers took that and developed and created white only, black only.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't eat in a public restroom, you can't ride on a train, you can't. So think of any place where you go publicly right now. Just imagine going to a restaurant, any place. We already know, we know our history of beautiful America.
Right.
So it wasn't until Brown challenged the Board of Education in 1954. So look at the Jim Crow laws that were created. So that Supreme Court technically overruled, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have, it's laughable, but it's not funny.
Right.
But now it was ruled unconstitutional. So from 1954, beautiful America and our lawmakers were now commanded to get rid of white only, black only. And now it's our constitutional right. It always has been
Mm-hmm.
under the 14th Amendment, which is equal protection under the law.
Mm-hmm.
So fact check me. Yes.
I don't have to
So
listen. I know
yeah.
that you are a
So
historian with a
yeah,
wealth of
I
knowledge.
love history, but
I know.
I'm 67.
I know. I know you are
And
you are a historian, but I want to go
but
just to go back
I reviewed, yes, ma'am.
to go back
But
to the Roe
yes,
v. the reversal of that. What was
yes,
appalling to me is as you stated, is that there was no leeway for for other things happening. Like you said, situations. There are so many situations that could
right,
happen that would
right,
cause that reason for you to have to to terminate a pregnancy or whatever the situation. So it was just appalling to me that they didn't leave any room open for just for things happening.
right,
Even for
right.
age, for incest and all
Yeah,
those type
yeah.
of things. They didn't
Assault.
even,
Yeah,
yeah, they didn't
assault.
consider,
Yeah,
rape. They
assault.
didn't consider any of that. And I just think it's appalling that they think it's okay for you to tell me what to do in my situation when you're not
Yeah,
in my situation.
that's very true.
So I just, but yeah, let's
Good
get off
point.
that because
Good point.
I can talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and people will continue to talk about, but as we know, in beautiful America, just like the 18th Amendment, which prohibited alcohol, right? That America said stop. There were Christian movements, I mean, aggressively against the sale of alcohol and said it was evil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everybody has their reasons, but just pointing out the 18th Amendment. So everything that happened in beautiful America, when that amendment was added to the Constitution, in 1933, they had to repeal it because of the bootlegging, the crime,
Mm-hmm.
the paid politicians that looked the other way. So
Mm-hmm.
they had to make it legal.
Mm-hmm.
So 1933, under President Roosevelt's administration, he repealed it. So we have an Amendment 21, that repeals Amendment 18 that said you can't drink. If you get caught drinking, it's against the law. And speakeasies and people became millionaires. Of course, Al Capone is one who had amassed over $60 million, and that was just, and God knows everybody else that was, in on it. So that's what happened in beautiful America. We
So
see the same thing with marijuana.
right, yeah, that's what I was gonna mention. So how do you feel about all the police brutality and everything that's still happening today? I feel like we're still out here in the streets, protesting for the same thing that Martin Luther King was. Everybody, I'm like, how are we still in this state in America, in free America? How are we still in this state doing the same fighting that we were doing all those years
Yeah,
ago?
during my time, right?
Yeah.
And the
How
time
was
before
this
me.
possible?
And the time before me. What Martin Luther King and leaders of his era, and certainly more than just Martin Luther King. I mean, during my era, it was the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
So the Black Panthers in Oakland, they pulled on the Constitution. So everything goes back to the Constitution as a foundation, because that is where America was born, and that was the governing doctrine that our founding fathers put into right. And so the first 10, the Bill of Rights are, it's the first 10 amendments. But what Dr. King zeroed in on was the 14th Amendment, which gave equal protection under the law to everyone. So that is what he brought. And again, scholars, people know this, but back to policing, police brutality, and everything that went on during that era. As far as my thoughts are concerned regarding changes, yes, we can fight and we can protest for changes, but everything happens at the level of where the laws are made. Because we know, I'm a product of being a child in the 60s, and then being hopeful and full of promise in the 70s because of the people that went before me, right? So I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I'm continuing to see this. What I can say about beautiful America, what happened to Mr. Floyd was a global outpouring, And people have been saying for years that one day we're going to see someone be killed on live television and see what the after effects will be of that. But as far as police brutality, as far as the unfairness that continues, it may not appear to look as if there has been some changes, but there have been changes regarding of exposure. For the first time in my lifetime, I have seen white men who have done a crime against an American Black person go to jail. That never happened in America once upon a time. And yes, there are things that are still going on, but the exposure, that person who did not turn their camera off when Mr. Floyd was murdered on national television around the world, that never would have happened.
Right.
We had evidence.
This
And
is
my theory is not even a theory. It's a crazy thought for beautiful America. If American Black men are so deadly, with the exception of what we just saw, and I don't even want to.
Yeah, we don't have to touch that.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that. I'm going to get off that and I'm going to say this about that and go on. If American Black men, unarmed, can still be shot down for fear of your life, then across the country, the majority of our police force of our law enforcement should be American Black men, because they can command you to stop in your tracks without even having a gun.
Mm-hmm.
That's a silly thought and it's a silly comment, but you can get so angry and we can become so frustrated. And I hear your frustration and I hear your passion, because even when Trayvon Martin, when that happened, it just ripped my guts out again.
Mm-hmm.
Because even I said maybe I didn't post it, and I'm not a social, media guru or,
Mm-hmm.
constantly making, but I have those thoughts. Even when that happened, I just thought it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And it did.
And it's
And
continued to happen. And
and
what
it
I wish
continued.
would happen is that it would hit their pockets. I think if they would take it to the pockets of these police departments with the defunding, like I heard a
Mhm.
pastor say, I won't say who the pastor was. It's like,
Understood.
we need y'all to start paying for these funerals. If y'all gonna keep killing everybody, pay for the
Mhm.
funerals. Get the
Mhm.
parents. Take care of the families when
Mhm.
take the fathers from the homes who are bringing in the money.
Right. The other thing about this, that is a good point. There are good police officers. I know some. I've met some.
I'm
I
scared.
know that to be true.
I'm
And
scared of them.
and police officers during that phase of Mr. when that happened to Mr. Floyd, the good police officers did make those comments. They did come out. They did defend. And as a result of that, there's many incidents that have been prevented.
Mm-hmm.
That have been prevented because people are stepping up. They are standing in. One community that I will not mention went to bat for and defended a young American Black male who had been pulled over by the police, had his hands up. He was being questioned with the light. And you can fact check me on this. I'm not mentioning the city or a community. But what that community did, they came out of their doors. They didn't just peek out the blinds and say, well, I hope he gets home safely. They made a conscious effort to say, not this one.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on, officer? What has he done?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Mm-hmm.
the problem? They brought out their phones and started taping. And mind you, this was a diverse community. So you had everybody coming out their doors. He
Mm-hmm.
lives in this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know him. What's the problem? Why did you pull him over? So
Mm-hmm.
they're questioning the police,
Mm-hmm.
which made the police officer get back in his car and drive away.
Mm-hmm.
They saved that kid from a night of, well, at least I can arrest him and I can take him down and I can do whatever. Now, we know there are laws, and that is what beautiful America is governed by. We're governed by laws. When the laws change, when you go in and you say the law says,
Mm-hmm.
right or wrong, the movement, the civil rights movement, the human rights movement, the women's rights movement, name any movement,
Uh-huh.
it changed laws.
Right.
So you have a black and white issue, not an emotional issue.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution was brought to light under the Amendment 14, that all citizens born in America, beautiful America, will have equal protection under the law. There is no except for them,
Right.
except for
Right.
these people, or except for, it says all,
Oh.
ALL. So when it's the law and it's written, you have the right. There's 10 Bill of Rights. You have the right to freedom of speech. You have the right to be protected under the United States Constitution in beautiful America.
Yeah, I don't know how we got excluded from all. I don't know how that happened. But listen, I again, I know you are a historian.
Well,
You can
I
go.
I do fact checking, and I
Yeah,
had to check
I know.
myself today. I just don't want to say, well, I think and I
I know. Yeah,
thought, and so and I didn't want you to ask me some hard questions because
ma'am.
I'm really not.
There
Because
is
I will say
question.
next question. Let me just say that, KFLO. I will say next question.
Yeah, there was no question that I was concerned about you not being able to answer. Okay, because
But I will say next question. Go ahead.
okay, next one.
I'm just
Okay,
saying
so let's
next
end on a
question.
lighter note because we got about 15 minutes left. So I want to talk about you. I want to celebrate you and congratulate you on getting married very
Stop playing.
recently.
Yes.
And yeah, because I want listen, I don't we just talked about a lot of heavy stuff. So let's brighten this show,
Yeah.
let's brighten it up.
Yeah.
Um, how
Yeah.
long have you been how long have you been
Well,
newlywed? Because you're
8 months.
newlywed now.
Wait,
8 months.
again?
8 months.
It's been 8 months. So we it's been 8 months.
Okay.
It's been really good. Now it's been some adjustments because
Uh-huh.
I was 20 years married before. I was 20 years single before. So I was in a great place in my life. I was in a wonderful place in my life of just being free and being self-loved, and my life is full. My life was very, very full, and I met Dex, and it's been interesting. Now, it's been so much. It's been
Some adjustment,
some
right?
adjustments.
How does that happen? Because I mean, this is love in later
It
years.
is.
You're 60. You're
Yeah.
60.
I'm 67. Yes.
67. You
So it
look
was
you look
funny.
beautiful.
It
I,
was funny going out. Yeah, we had a full blown wedding and all that. It was beautiful. It
how
was
so?
funny going out. It was just funny going out looking for stuff because my daughter would go with me. And so that was cool. But every time we go someplace, we get the same question. Oh, who's the bride? And she say, she's the bride. she's the bride.
So how was
So it was
dating?
fun.
Like, how did you
Oh, I had
open
to
up
learn how to
your
date.
heart and your mind to dating? Because I'm sure he had to court you, right?
Yeah, he did. Now we had a courtship, which I really appreciated. He officially, as we got to know each other, just he officially asked me, "Can we spend time together? I'd like to spend time together." And he said something that just stamped me because my mother used to say this. One of her sayings was, "Oh, I can show you better than I can tell you."
Right.
And the other one was, if a man wants you, all you have to do is breathe.
See, that's what you told me the other day.
Yeah,
And that, let me tell you something. See, that's one of
yeah,
those gems that you dropped on
that's
me.
real. I
And
mean,
I'm going
that's
to be, I
real.
just thought about that today.
You
So,
don't have to flip upside down. You don't have to be somebody else. You don't have to put on whatever. It's too much work, for
that
one
part.
thing. It's like, this is it. You can take it, or you can take it or leave it. But you were leading to something about an unguarded heart or guarding your heart. How
Yeah.
do you do that? I promise you, and I put this on everything. My relationship with my Lord, with God, and just trusting and believing Him. That's where I was in my life, and I pray whenever that I would meet someone. And this gonna sound really, really corny, but is corny still? Does that sound cool or
I mean,
lame,
I still use it.
whatever?
I still use it.
Anyway, the point is, I meet someone, we talking, and your actions are going to say who you are. Your actions and your words should match. You can be fun, you can be this, but I do not like to be ooh wee wowed. I'm going ooh wee wow you. I'm going to take you here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do. I Please don't do that because the truth is going to come out. So you might as well tell the truth. That's what I'm doing. You can take it or leave it. That's some things that come with me at this age. But pretty much all age. But unguarding your heart, it was a prayer, Kim. It really sincerely between me and God, and I don't think He minds me sharing this. And I would pray, Lord, if this is a relationship that's going to honor you, that is going to bring you glory, that I am going to grow from, then move us forward together.
Okay.
If this is not of you, then remove me, change the situation. And there's been some things just like, Lord, you want me to walk away from this? Well, help me crawl away from it. Help me crawl away from it. And when I tell you, he will do it like poof. And when he does that, like he really does it, and you're really believing him for that, you're really sincerely, then you can't go back through the toilet, with your head down there trying to pull that back up and saying, if it's been flushed, then it's been flushed. Now, it might be some withdrawal. It might be some things you go through. And there's a lot of cats out there now. I'm not on social media a lot, but there's a lot of young men out there who are speaking some interesting truth about how to honor a woman and how they're socialized to mistreat a woman and to just completely disrespect a woman and how they're growing from that. And that's beautiful. If men are listening to that and if men are open to that, and it's not just men, it's women too. You have to want that. But in this situation with Dex, with my husband, that God brought me, that he chose and looked for me, I am the blessed one because he has truly. It's been 8 months. Check with me 8 months from now.
Right.
But, it's really a cool place. I mean,
where did y'all meet? We've
had the arguments and we've had the wait a minute, let's communicate to get back to the other side. So we met 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, and we got closer during the pandemic. But we met about 2019. Yeah, 2019. So after we
at the club, y'all was at the club. That's how y'all met?
No, we didn't meet. Actually, we did meet at a club.
Really?
It was a virtual cafe, striked from any place a person meets up is a club, right? But no, we met at a virtual cafe, got to know each other, talked. I loved how he presented himself. I loved who he was. I loved that he was for real, and he shared things about his childhood, who he was, how he grew up, and that was just very beautiful to me. Okay. And I wasn't rushed. Okay. I wasn't rushed. I don't respond to rush. I don't respond to that. Right. Respond to that. And I don't know how he figured that out and how he got to know. But the key thing was he asked officially, I want to get to know you. I want us to spend time together. I want us to, who are you? I want to know who you are, right. Because that is the most important thing. So it's been a great 8 months. And I'm looking forward to more. I've learned a lot from him. And that's the other thing, when that's a long time. I think, as my brother-in-law put it, man, she 20, she's it was a long time. I said, you put a little too much emphasis on the long. On that long. And it's not like you don't know people or you haven't met someone or you haven't spent time, but people will show you who they are. I'm a firm believer in that. And I have this ritual, and I talk to people all the time. We share. I've learned a lot about myself. Now, that's been an interesting thing because you find out how close you might have been, how you did things, and now you got to consider, of course, someone else. And I love that it's stretching me. It's kind of scary, not as scary before, because you have your own set of how you're going to do things, and you have your own opinions, and all that's true. But it's also true that there is a place that you get to where you say, I'm done. Right. I'm good. Right. I'm done. I'm good. Everything is fine. Lord, if this is it, and if I am trusting and believing you for what is best in my life, then right now, during this season, I'm not supposed to be anybody's wife. That's where I am right now. I am content with where I am right now, and I know that's a good place. I know that God knows what I want,
And when
He
these,
knows what you need.
he knows what, well, but he know what I want too, because
He know what you
because
need.
you got to be pleasing to the eyes, not just the spirit.
Come on, somebody.
You got to be pleasing to the eyes. I like a little eye candy, okay? And the Lord know what I like. I done told him specifically what I like.
Be specific.
Be
That's
specific.
That's awesome.
Give me a good old Lorenz Tate looking something. That's what I want.
You know
Look,
what?
we got about 2 minutes left. So I want to ask you some just some personal questions, little quick personal fun questions.
Okay.
And
are they hard questions?
They are not hard. I was gonna say 20 seconds on the clock, but I don't know that I have a timer. But anyway, here we go. I saw these KFLO's flamers. Okay, here we go. Number one, read a book. Read a book or watch a movie.
Definitely read a book.
Okay, The Jeffersons are Good Times.
Neither.
Oh, come on. Tina.
Okay. You need an answer.
Yes.
I would say the Jeffersons.
Okay.
Only because of Florence.
Okay. Tina Marie or MJB?
Definitely Tina Marie.
Okay. Cruise ship or cabin in the mountains?
Cabin in the mountains.
Okay. Home cooked meal or a fine restaurant?
Home cooked meal and a fine restaurant.
No mail. Smokey Robinson or James Brown?
Stop playing. Have you heard More Love by
Smokey? Come on. Smokey Robinson or James Brown?
Smokey.
Okay. Shaka Khan or Patti LaBelle?
Definitely Shaka Khan.
All right. Stevie Wonder or Marvin Gaye?
Stop playing. Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye.
Ride a bike or go swimming?
Ride a bike and go swimming. However, there is a story behind ride a bike that I will not tell right now. So I'll say go swimming. I can die.
Okay.
I can die.
All right. And the finale, Prince or Michael Jackson?
That's a tough one.
Give it to me.
Little Red Corvette, Raspberry
Okay,
Beret.
so that's Prince. That is
Raspberry Beret and the outdoor. I was what did he say? I was simply doing nothing. It seems like I was doing pretty close to doing nothing. Simply like the day before or something. Anyway,
right.
That lyric does it.
Anyway, Prince. We got it, Prince.
Stop playing.
All right, Miss Brenda, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for spending time with little old me. Thank you for the history lesson that I was not expecting, but thank you for it.
Fact check me.
I ain't got to. I ain't got to. I know you already did it.
Fact check me.
All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If anyone would like to be a guest on the show, you can send an email to keatoncreations@yahoo.com. As usual, show your love with like, comments, and shares. I am KFLO K on all platforms. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me finish what you start.
Thank you.